The CNN boss coming to the country and going to see President Kenyatta and apologizing over that hotbed story. Remember when President Obama was here, he described the media as feisty, and not just mainstream media, online, social media. Everyone went after CNN for that one. The president in his speeches would turn it on its head, that hotbed terminology, and we saw other speakers as well. For you, that says what about the media in the country to get such an international powerhouse coming to apologize?
I'm a bit conflicted on this because in the first case, I thought it was, I mean, I was one of the people who criticized CNN for that remark, the hotbed of terror remark. And I think it says a lot about the influences that people can have both online and offline, I think mostly online. In this case, you know, to get in even CNN to apologize, not the first time that has happened. But I think I'm a bit concerned when we see media figures, also international media figures, pretty much pandering to governments. When they come down and they've got to meet the president and agree. I sometimes wonder whether the next thing that comes out, or if they get a story that's critical of Kenya, that they might think twice about publishing it because they might now. But
in this particular case, wasn't the apology that was an overstretched description? It was actually false.
Yes, I would have said.
And not in context.
I would have thought that an apology, again on-air apology, would suffice. You know, having to have, and I think this is very much
business-wise, would that make sense?
Thank you. This is the thing. It's business-wise, but that's what we should worry about, because then what has shown, what the government has learned is it actually has pull. It actually can influence coverage by the fact that it puts in advertising. The same scenario we have locally, you know. And we've got to be very careful.
How?
Locally, in the sense that
because largely the stories are anti-government, and government still gives the media a lot of money.
Well, we have seen the government make moves to
like which one?
Like when they wanted to put together the advertise, which I think is still going to happen, and media complaining about it, saying they are seeing this as pressure points. They exist. These pressure points. You know, we've had your own people in Standard having to go to State House, you know, to apologize for the Mount Kenya retreat story. You know, and I wonder about this. I've worked in the media for a while.
The paper. I don't know about going to State House,
well,
but
they did go to
thing
State House.
This,
but
when you have
finish. Yeah. I've worked in. I've seen scenarios where large companies. People are afraid, or the media is afraid to bring out stories about them because of the impact it might have on their advertising.
But I need you to separate this for me.
I
need to separate this for me. On one hand, I get what you're saying, that there is that danger with governments to then use and take advantage of that power they you know, wield and be able to guide in whatever coverage, whatever direction they want. Right. But on the other hand, when a media house has erred and has had published information that is wrong, and the media, when the government calls it to then, you know, this is wrong, does it then become an issue of them still?
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The media itself can simply run an apology online. They can run it on air. You know, that should suffice unless we want to take legal action. My problem is when they feel we've really got to go and meet the president.
Yeah, because you're also getting business.
Thank you. It's mixing the business and the coverage that for me
and it's impossible to separate the two, isn't it?
Yeah, I think interesting. That was an interesting experience. It's a case study that you know, informs a lot of things. Even you know, the classes that we teach. When a CEO flies from Atlanta to Kenya to apologize for an error that was made by an editor, then there are questions there. You know, what is the independence of the editor in terms of you know, making decisions about what goes and the kind of slant or framing that a story has. In this particular case, of course, you know, the framing of Kenya was uncalled for in the way that it was, and I have, you know, repeatedly said that. But I guess it talks about the editorial independence of media houses to be able to you know, cover stories the way that they, you know, the stories are actually panning out. But it also points to questions of credibility, you know, because if CNN, you know, can make such a mistake, you know, as an international media house that, you know, that has you know, for a long time had a good reputation, what does that then, you know, portend for journalists and for the practice of journalism? But of course, the driving force in all this is the advertiser interest, and we cannot wish that away. And so the questions about, you know, to what extent then would media be fair, be balanced in the kind of coverage that we get across, you know, various media. To what extent would they be fair without necessarily influencing or without necessarily having been influenced by advertisers?
Yeah.
What was the motivation, you know, for this, you know, for this particular apology? And I think we all know